Hi, I'm Michael Ruttle, immigration attorney. Today is Friday, May 1st, 2020, and here's the latest. Every week, we try to summarize for you the biggest stories in immigration laws that are affecting everyone. This week is no different. We're going to talk about what the government says is happening this week. We're also going to talk about what we're hearing from our clients, nothing privileged, of course. We're going to tell you what you should watch out for in the coming days, weeks, and months. And last but not least, we're going to tell you what you can do to best prepare for your immigration case going forward. So let's get right to it. First, let's start with the government. There's a new visa bulletin out. If you've watched our videos before, you know that the visa bulletin is something that's released every month. It's essentially a government announcement that tells the public where the government is in issuing green cards based on categories, right? So there are family-based green cards, there are employment-based green cards, there are various categories, right? Parents of US citizens, siblings, spouses, children, and then on the employment side, you have people of extraordinary ability, national interest waiver, investors, etc. All of those different categories have different wait times, and the visa bulletin tells you where they're at. What's big about this one for May 2020, it shows that the EB1 category is current. This is something that doesn't happen every month. So if you're eligible or you're considering applying for the EB1 Alien of Extraordinary Ability green card, you might want to consider doing it within the next 30 days because the next visa bulletin might come out and we might see retrogression like we have in the past. Another thing the government said is that, as we mentioned last week, they are planning to reopen offices on June 4th. So if your case has been affected due to the coronavirus pandemic, such as having your biometrics appointment canceled or your interview canceled, you can expect to start seeing announcements sent out rescheduling interviews and appointments. Okay. We've heard through the grapevine that the U.S. Embassy in Paris has actually already started scheduling non-immigrant visa interviews for after June 4th. Every case and every embassy is different, so check with your particular embassy to see if that's the case for you. Another thing the government announced was a new policy to the USCIS policy manual regarding false claims to citizenship. Now, something in immigration law is that it's a false claim to citizenship that could be an inadmissible or deportable offense depending on the circumstances. But what the new policy says is that it doesn't have to be an intentional misrepresentation in order for you to be penalized under the law. What that means is there are some cases where individuals might genuinely think they are U.S. citizens but be wrong, and so you don't have the intent to lie, but you do misrepresent anyway, right? So check with that. If you think your case might be affected, you might want to check in on that. And then the last but not least for this week, the government announced new flexibility on their deadlines. We've said before that if you received a request for evidence or a notice of intent to deny or have some other deadline pending and it was issued within a certain time frame, then the government has said they will consider things filed late up to 60 days, depending on the circumstances. Now, that doesn't mean just blow off your deadline. You should talk to a lawyer or make sure your case is not going to be jeopardized by sending it in late. You have to demonstrate that your case has been affected by COVID-19. Okay, so moving on to what we're hearing on cases. Now, immigration lawyers, many of us work in small firms, and so we talk amongst ourselves. It's a common courtesy to talk about what's happening. Obviously, we don't talk about anything privileged, but we say, hey, what are you seeing on family cases? What are you seeing as far as trends go in employment cases, etc.? One thing we can all agree on right now is that timelines are just wacky. They're crazy, right? Some cases that should take a long time to be processed are taking a very short amount of time. For example, a year down to 4 months. And then the opposite is true, where something that should take just a short amount of time is taking a lot longer, right? So every case is different. Just because the government has said that a certain case is taking a certain number of months or years or whatever isn't necessarily accurate. You kind of got to go on a month-by-month basis. Another thing we're seeing is that a lot of our H1B clients are experiencing furloughs in their company. This puts both the employer and the beneficiary in an awkward position. If you have to furlough somebody but yet still have to pay them, and then if you don't pay them, are they terminated? And then do you have to reapply? It gets complicated. So if you have any questions about your case, you might want to check on that to see how a furlough would affect you. And last but not least, approvals are still happening. We've had non-immigrant visas and green cards both be approved in the last month. Obviously, every case is unique. It's a case-by-case basis and results vary, but they are still happening. So that's good news. Next, what should you watch out for in the coming days, weeks, and months? Well, first, let's talk about Form I-864. If you are applying for a green card through a family member, one of the forms you have to submit is an I-864 affidavit of support. This is essentially a contract between a sponsor and the U.S. government that says if the alien beneficiary receives public benefits, the sponsor signing form I-864 can be on the hook to reimburse the government for those fees, depending on the amount. And so in the past, this form, normally the person only needed to demonstrate proof of income, such as W-2, tax returns, etc. But the new proposals would require far more invasive information, such as bank accounts, account numbers, routing numbers, names of people on those accounts, right? Which could affect people that aren't even related to the case. And so the comments are open right now, and lawyers in the American Immigration Lawyers Association are encouraging people to comment against such invasive questions on the form. So stay up to date on that. Congressional hearings are suspended right now. It's the COVID-19 pandemic is still going on. Apparently, it hit Washington, D.C. pretty hard. So senators, congressmen, and a lot of people working in D.C. Are gone. They're not there. So supposedly hearings will resume in the coming weeks, but we'll hear about that. When they do resume, there's something called the Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act, which was bipartisan legislation that was introduced in the Senate to discuss ways to bring in healthcare workers from out of the country who can help alleviate some of the stress put on the healthcare system by the COVID-19 pandemic, such as doctors, nurses, manufacturers of PPE, other things that can, other individuals who can help contribute to fighting this global pandemic together. So when Congress resumes, hopefully that'll get passed and we might see some relief in that regard. And last but not least, there was a lawsuit filed called Doe v. Trump. Last week, you heard us talk about President Trump's latest travel ban, where he suspended immigrant visa entry for 60 days. Some civil rights groups filed a lawsuit to prevent Donald Trump from implementing that new travel ban. This was just filed last week, so stay up to date on that and see how this plays out. Litigation takes a very long time. And so, last but not least, what can you do to prepare for your case going forward? Well, practice social distancing. It looks like starting May 15th, a lot of things are going to open up nationwide. We might get back to a somewhat normal way of life and not be confined to our homes. The state of Georgia has already relaxed their at-home restrictions, and so have many other states as well. But when you get back to it, practice social distancing, and we'll all get through this together. When you're ready to move forward on your case, get everything ready, get it translated if you need to. Make sure you have originals and copies of personal documents that you're going to need for your case, and then talk to your lawyer to make sure you can do everything in your power to get your case ready to proceed as quickly and normally as possible. And if you found this video helpful, hopefully you did, hit that like button, click that bell, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, and follow us on Facebook to stay up to date on the ways U.S. immigration laws are affecting everyone in these crazy times. Also, please share this video with anyone you think might find it helpful, because immigration laws truly do affect everyone. If you have anything that you want to talk about or you want us to cover in the next Friday latest video or one of our other What It Is videos, hit us up at www.ruttlelaw.com, or you can leave us a comment on our Facebook page or in the video comment section below. Until next time, have a great weekend. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Ruttle. Keep climbing that mountain.